Hey, happy National Taco and Burrito Day. It's Cinco de Mayo. Let's see, from there we're going to get to I Learn is done until your 8th grade, except for NWEA because we're not done hating children yet. And then hopefully you turned in your field day shirt order thing. And let's see from there. Chapter 4 was due. That was on the quiz. Hopefully Chapter 4 was not too exhausting for you. All one page of it. We are going to start reading here today in just a moment and doing a talky thing. I'm going to be reading page 142 tomorrow. If you are not to page 142 tomorrow, it just means it's going to be confusing. Because we're going to be jumping in, and there's going to be a scene on there that deals with a fellow who is wearing black and a cliff and a stabbing and stuff like that. And so, the thing is, I have to sort of pick and choose what parts I'm going to be doing with you, so that's the part I'm doing with you tomorrow. I'll be picking up from there. As far as the, I think it's up there, hang on. If you have not finished quiz, and there are a number of you in here who have not finished quiz, it's not the end of the world. It just means that now the highest grade you get is an 80%. So from 80% on down from there to sort of help you out from there. But if those of you who need more time to read and get stuff done, no hate, it's fine with me. I completely understand. And so I just sort of adjust it to make things hopefully slightly better on you. Sam?
Was it due at midnight or at the start of school?
It was due at, well, technically 9 a.m. because I didn't check it until then. So, yeah. Does that help you out?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That was. And officially, it actually wasn't until second period because I didn't actually check it until my prep period. So you could have done it during first period, and I would not have really known. Dylan? You can. If, well, one, you can retake it, but you can only get up to an 80%, which I think is a 19. So if you got lower than a 19 and you want to retake it, you just have to email me and I can unlock it for you, and that is absolutely fine with me. Hi, Kira.
Did you happen to check the test after 10:02 a.m.?
I don't know. Let's see. Is it 11? Huh? I have no idea.
It was it.
I don't remember when I hit the button. Nikki?
So if you got below a 19,
Yes.
I email you,
Yes. And then I unlock it,
and you unlock it.
and then you take it.
If I take it again,
Uh-huh.
does it mean I get an 80% now?
No. It means you can get up to an 80%, which is 19. You can't just unlock it and then just be like, C, 80! It's not the way it works.
Yeah, but if I get higher than an 80.
Then you cap it at 80%. Does that make sense? Okay. And yeah, and that's fine with me. You just got to let me know from there, and then we're good to go. Now we're good to go with all those issues? Yeah. All right. There. So, you had asked about my favorite part. So you got to the part with the running into the tree, and then the teen love story with the whole I love you, and then the door in the face. And then the part where then it builds all up, and then the fact where he gets to make fun of her for love, that also had a natural attraction to me. And then the fact that it was all so much, this whole first chapter is all this buildup of love and greatness and the greatest love story ever. And then he dies. So that was my other part that I wanted to be there to watch you guys, because I did get to the fourth period where all of a sudden you find out the fact that he...
Wesley died.
Yeah.
It's so abrupt.
Yeah, it's just all... By pirate, I mean, if you're gonna die, student revolution, pirate attack, they're both right up there as the ways to go. And so, yeah, the fact that the pirate attack comes in, and then the fact that we kill off a main character in the very first chapter, it just... If I have to do a love story, it might as well be one where we kill off the main person right there at the very beginning, and that brings me joy. Taylin, oh, you want a high five for death? High five! Oh, what's up, Taylin? I thought you were excited about killing off boys.
Thanks.
Okay, so why this book is so I can't.
It's an awesome book.
Like what's the word? I can't predict it. Like it's unpredictable.
Yes.
Like I never. And then where did?
Wait, isn't that a TikTok trend? Never let them know what's coming next, and then like I saw the thing like you do like
Never let them know your next move.
Is that what it is? Never let them know, never let them know your next move?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
TikTok is this really popular thing that kids go online and you watch like little short videos. You should try to get on there sometime. It's really good. Yeah, there's a trend I saw like never let them know, predict your next move, and you like weird. This book is similar. It's going to keep doing weird turns the whole way through.
It fell out of my pocket.
It's partly why I like it, because that's sort of my Yes, you got picking up what I'm putting down.
Like sometimes when you show up to school with red hair and everyone's like, wow.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed that very few people even commented on it. The fact that I came
We're
in.
used to it now.
Right, that's the whole. I told the same thing to my family. I was like, now I show with red hair. People are like, oh, it's Monday. And I'm just like, yay! I finally broken your spirit. Now you guys just accept things. And that, is that a piece of popcorn? Are you sharing it? I don't know.
No, I just found on the floor.
That was a weird brag. But yeah, this book is similar to my personality. There's a number of reasons why I enjoy what happens in this book.
God, she threw it.
Right. Carter?
Honestly, at this point, it would be surprising if your hair was normal. It's just kind of expected.
Wait.
So,
I mean, if you remember at the beginning of the year, I had a shaved head. If you go-
Yeah.
Yeah, at the
Wait,
be-
what?
Huh?
yeah, at the beginning of the year, because like over the summertime, I had like messed up my haircut and I had like shaved it down. Do you guys know?
You were bald.
Yeah, we were at the other room because I had tried to do a haircut and I'd messed it up and I had just and I'd shaved it all the way down to like nothing.
Yeah.
You did?
You guys are the best.
had a beard.
So
You
yeah,
were old.
that's part of how I've just worn you guys
I
down.
forgot you did have a
Right?
beard.
I mean, you can go back and look at pictures of me on this thing called like
Carter
Instagram,
just kicked
which is this other social media site. You're giving me a look. Bowen.
We wouldn't be surprised if you had gray hair.
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
I wouldn't.
I
be
do. It's
surprised
just
if-
mostly in this area, and when I grew out my beard, that was what I mean, if you guys remember. Do you guys remember when I had a beard all winter time? And,
God.
yeah, and the giant gray patch was down here, which I named after my children.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so. Hi,
I
Carter.
wouldn't be surprised if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet.
Oh, nice reference on that.
Huh?
That's a reference, and I knew you'd get it because you've seen the movie.
So we have the Princess Buttercup, and so now the fact is she is going to marry Prince Humperdinck. Does she love Prince Humperdinck?
No.
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 She
She
loves
will only ever love Wesley, but of course. By the way, if you've noticed, oh yeah, I'm not there. Never mind. Don't notice. Shh. It's for something later. Buttercup, Humperdinck. I almost talked about a thing I can't talk about.
No, the mask.
No, it's the Colts football sign.
Oh.
Oh.
You watch football?
Oh, that mask.
Yes.
You like it?
I used to for a long time, and I kind of stopped watching after a while. It got kind of. I was not entertained by really rich millionaires complaining about how much money they have and hitting each other. That kind of took some of the enjoyment out of it for me. So
I love watching rich.
it's weird being a teacher who's fighting for my 2 pennies to rub together. Then I get to watch millionaires hate each other, and I'm like,
Wait, what's the
Yeah.
issue?
not as much fun as I thought. Football, professional sports. It took the joy out of it for me after a while.
Baseball,
So.
they're complaining about not getting enough money.
Yeah, I know. They're like, I only got $100 million. That's like enough to pay like all the teachers in Connecticut. Oh well, not today. I'm like, yeah, what a rough life you guys have.
To be clear, there's like
So,
two
to
teachers
each their
in
own.
Connecticut.
All right, and then we got past. Let's see. Oh, I guess now we'll jump to 5. The no, hang on, I'm trying to go back and forth. No, we'll be nice to people. Because I was going to go over some things that are on the quiz, but I was like, if you're turning it in late, your best you can get's a C+, so that's all good anyway. So on that one, we got to the fact that Prince Humperdinck is supposed to marry the Princess Norina girl, and they get like matched up. And why does he not marry her?
She's bald.
And again, from me at the beginning of the year, there's nothing wrong with bald people, especially if you happen to view me from above and behind. So there's nothing wrong if you happen to have a lack of hair. But apparently, Prince Humperdinck is kind of,
He's baldest.
he's a material boy. And so we have a bit of an issue in that area. So this is where he goes and talks to Princess Buttercup and is like, hey, you're a hottie. I'm rich. We should get together. And she's like, but I'll never love you. And he goes, I'm rich. You're a hottie. That's a match made in heaven. And she goes, okay. And they high five. And then chapter 4, thank God we're not reading the full version of it, because chapter 4 is all about really boring girly stuff. Girly stuff. Sorry, I keep thinking you want a high five, Taylin. What's up?
Oh, I'm just like wondering why on earth would the original author just write about that? Like no one, like the packing the hat. Like, who cares about that?
Well-
24 pages? Are you kidding me?
Remember, when he did it, it was making fun of royalty. Like, his whole point was the satire and making fun of royalty, and the whole point was how stupid royals are, and they spend all this time doing it. And also, authors are insane. So there might be a little bit of A, a little bit of B. Those things kind of go together. Bowen,
Speaking of stupid royalty, why would you name your child Prince Humperdinck?
Well, realize that's his last name.
Well, still.
You don't get a choice on the last name things. It kind of
You can
comes.
legally change your last name though, can't you?
But that would make his father, the king,
If you're a royal, you
confused.
should just change it.
I mean-
kind of like Queen Elizabeth.
But then again, who's going to make fun of him? If you make fun of him, he kills you. So it'd be kind of fun having the name Humperdinck, and when someone laughs, you can just snap your fingers and someone runs over and stabs them. And you're like, yeah, my name's Humperdinck. Humperdinck. Humper? And you just sit there and like, laugh. Do it! And the guy behind you's like, ha 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 ha. It's a right stabbing bolt. Can't help it. I learn's done. I'm in a good mood. Well, hi Taylor, what's up?
Okay. If you have, okay, wait. Do you have to have your parents' last name? Like, can your parent just write down a different last name on your birth certificate, or is that like illegal?
That is a good question.
Because that's like, I mean, you don't have to, but it's just like you like get your dad's name.
Change your last name.
I mean, I know you can legally change it later, but I mean,
But you just write down different
You
name
know how
on
many
the.
forms and
On the-
you have
of the
to
birth-
fill out
I
your
don't
entire
know.
life because you're
that's a
different
solid.
from your parents.
I went through 2 children. That was never a thing I thought about. It was just
Yeah. Oh.
disowning my child when they were born.
You find that cool?
But someday Taylin, when little baby Taylin's around, you give them whatever last name you want. And let me know how it goes.
I'll have fun with that.
Nikki.
Question. I think since you can change your like last name like later in life, you can choose like your parents could give you a different last name, but it causes complications. It makes things harder.
I would imagine it would. But if you're a Humperdinck, then maybe that's, see, you'd already be stabbed. That's where the problem comes in.
First name to Jen.
Carter.
I feel like it'd be interesting to see how the descendants of him went through history because since he was kind of a real guy, I think. It'd be interesting to see if, I don't know, if someone had a girl and then got married, the name kind of just died.
I mean, there's every chance. Well, one, as we find out later on, we'll find out more about why the Humperdinck line is not as strong anymore. And 2, it might be like that whole coming to America thing where they change the name. And maybe like now their last name is Hum or Dink or anything in between that I'm not going to say because it's going to make you giggle. So let's go to page 95. Right. Oh, chapter 4. No, skip that one. Chapter 5, the announcement. This is where the most of the story is, by the way. I'm trying to figure out, I'm flipping page up real quick to find 7, where's 6 begin? 6, 6, 6. I'm getting there.
Well,
Okay.
it's
That's the reading guide.
218 plus 1.
Correct. So chapter 218. So chapter 5 is just over 100 pages, which makes it 300 times longer than chapter 4. All right. That was a math joke. Y'all are just staring. Okay. Owen.
How much more Humperdinck do we have to go through?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot more Humperdinking going to happen.
Seriously. Said it like 8 times.
Is-
Right there.
Did you just need me to mock you in front of other children?
It was a necessity.
That's all. I have nothing left. Yes, Asher.
Carter's being mean to me.
Oh.
He's too close.
Did you say owl? He's not an owl. He's a child. I can see why you would think he's an owl because he looks like one right now, but no, he's not an owl. Oh, let's keep-
Why are you sitting on the chair?
Because he's an owl. That's what confused Carter.
Yeah.
Did you say who? No, that's what the sound an owl makes. I'm so happy I learned this over. I'm sorry. I'm like giggling from it.
don't need to.
Sass you?
Can I?
Yes, we would never read a book about sassing people. That would be wrong. All right, let me continue reading. The great square of Florence City was filled as never before, awaiting the introduction of Prince Humperdinck's bride-to-be, Princess Buttercup of Hammersmith. The crowd had begun forming some 40 hours earlier, but up to 24 hours before, there were still fewer than 1,000. But then, as the moment of introduction grew nearer, from across the country, the people came. None had ever seen. I I see them. I'm just, no, can't stand on the back.
Why?
Because that would
That's
get me in
really
trouble.
dangerous.
Because that sounds dangerous. You're gonna
Yeah,
have
that's
to
how
come
you like
down.
Jump.
Okay. Sorry.
There you go. Then yeah,
Is this good?
you have to be in the back. You're blocking people.
Is
So
this alright? Can I do this?
feels weird, but sure, we'll give it a try. At noontime, Prince Humperdinck appeared at the balcony of his father's castle and raised his arms. The crowd, which by now was at the danger size, slowly quieted. There were stories that the king was dying, but he was already dead, and that the king had been dead long since, that he was fine. My people, my beloveds, from whom we draw our strength, today is a day of greeting. As you must have heard, my honored father's health is not what it once was. He is, of course, 97. So who can ask more? As you also know, Florin needs a male heir. The crowd began to stir now. It was to be this lady they had heard so much about. In 3 months, our country celebrates its 500th anniversary. To celebrate that celebration, I shall, on that sundown, take for my wife the Princess Buttercup of Hammersmith. You do not know her yet, but you will meet her now. And he made a sweeping gesture, and the balcony door swung open, and Buttercup moved out beside him on the balcony. In case you couldn't see her very well, I went ahead and tried to zoom in for you. And the crowd quite literally gasped. The 21-year-old princess far surpassed the 18-year-old mourner. Her figure faults were gone, the too bony elbow having fleshed out nicely. The opposite pudgy wrist could not have been trimmer. Her hair, which was once the color of autumn, was still the color of autumn, except that before she had tended it herself, whereas now she had 5 full-time hairdressers who managed things for her. Okay, this was long after hairdressers. In truth, ever since there have been women, there have been hairdressers, Adam being the first, though the King James scholars do their very best to muddy this point. Her skin was still wintry cream, but now with 2 handmaidens assigned to each appendage, and 4 for the rest of her, and actually in certain lights seemed to provide her the gentle, continually moving as she moved, glow. Prince Humperdinck took her hand and held it high, and the crowd cheered. "That's enough! Mustn't risk overexposure," the prince said, and he started back in toward the castle. They have waited, some of them so long," Buttercup answered. "I would like to walk among them." "We do not walk among commoners unless it is unavoidable," the prince said, speaking to his 3rd period class. "I have known more than a few commoners in my time," Buttercup told him. "They will not, I think, harm me." And with that, she left the balcony, reappeared a moment later on the great steps of the castle, and, quite alone, walked open-armed down into the crowd. Wherever she went, the people parted. She crossed and recrossed the great square, and always, ahead of her, the people swept apart to let her pass. Buttercup continued, moving slowly and smiling, alone, like some land messiah. Most of the people there would never forget that day. None of them, of course, had ever been so close to perfection, and the great majority adored her instantly. There were, to be sure, some who, while admitting she was pleasing enough, were withholding judgment as to her quality as a queen. And, of course, there were some more who were frankly jealous. Very few of them hated her, and only 3 of them were planning to murder her. Buttercup naturally knew none of this. She was smiling, and when people wanted to touch her gown, well, she let them. And when they wanted to brush their skin against hers, well, she let them do that too. She had studied hard to do things royally, and she wanted very much to succeed. So she kept her posture erect and her smile gentle, and that her death was so close would have only made her laugh if someone had told her. But in the farthest corner of the great square, in the highest building in the land, deep in the deepest shadow, the man in black stood waiting. His boots were black and leather. His pants were black, and his shirt, his mask was black, blacker than raven, but blackest of all were his flashing eyes, flashing and cruel and deadly. Buttercup was more than a little weary after her triumph. The touching of the crowds had exhausted her, so she rested a bit. And then, toward mid-afternoon, she changed into her riding clothes and went to fetch horse. This was one aspect of her life that had not changed in the years preceding. She still loved to ride, and every afternoon, weather permitting or not, she rode alone for several hours in the wild land beyond the castle. She did her best thinking then. Not that her best thinking ever expanded horizons, and still, she told herself that she was not a dummy either. So as long as she kept her thoughts to herself, well, what was the harm? As she rode through the woods and streams and heather, her brain was awhirl. The walk through the crowds had moved her in a way most strange, for even though she had done nothing for 3 years now but trained to be a princess and a queen, today was the first day she actually understood what it was all soon to be a reality. And I just don't like Humperdinck, she thought. It's not that I hate him or anything. I just never see him. He's always off someplace or playing in the zoo of death. To Buttercup's way of thinking, there were 2 main problems. 1, was it wrong to marry without like? And 2, if it was it too late to do anything about it? The answers to her way of thinking as she rode along were 1, no, and 2, yes. It wasn't wrong to marry someone you didn't like. It just wasn't right either. If the whole world did it, well, that wouldn't be so great. What with everybody kind of grunting at everybody else as the years went by. But of course, not everybody did it, so forget about that. The answer to number 2 was even easier. She had given her word she would marry. That would have to be enough. True, he had told her quite honestly that if she said no, he would have to have her disposed of in order to keep respect for the crown at its proper level. Still, she could have, she had so chosen, said no. Everyone had told her since she became a princess in training that she was very likely the most beautiful woman in the world. Now, she was going to be the richest and most powerful as well. Don't expect too much from life, Buttercup told herself as she rode along. Learn to be satisfied with what you have. Dusk was closing in when Buttercup crested the hill. She was perhaps half an hour from the castle, and her daily ride was 3/4 done. Suddenly she reined in horse, for standing in the dimness beyond was the strangest trio she had ever seen. The man in front was dark, Sicilian perhaps, with the gentlest face, almost angelic. He had one leg too short and the makings of a humpback, but he moved forward toward her with surprising speed and nimbleness. The other 2 remained rooted. The second, also dark, probably Spanish, was as erect and slender as the blade of steel that was attached to his side. The third man, mustachioed, perhaps a Turk, was easily the biggest human being she'd ever seen. "A word," the Sicilian said, raising his arms. His smile was more angelic than his face. Buttercup halted. "Speak." "We are but poor circus performers," the Sicilian explained. "It is dark, and we are lost. We were told there was a village nearby that might enjoy our skills." "Oh, you were misinformed. There is no one, not for many miles." "Then there will be no one to hear you scream," the Sicilian said, and he jumped with frightening agility toward her face. That was all that Buttercup remembered. Perhaps she did scream, but if she did, it was more from terror than anything else, because certainly there was no pain. His hands expertly touched places on her neck, and unconsciousness came. She awoke to the lapping of water. So was that expected, by the way, or did that catch you off guard too?
Well, that's
You weren't expecting her to be attacked by a small midget and a giant?
Is that?
It's from the movie.
My name.
Yeah.
I know who it is. Colin.
If you've seen Clueless, that's the dad from Clueless. Yeah, nicely done. That is the father from Clueless.
That's the teacher.
Is it the teacher, not the dad? You're right, the teacher. I apologize. It's been a hot minute since I wore pink on Wednesdays.
That's from Mean Girls.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Taunting you brings me joy. I'll have to stop someday. I have no idea when. I still no. She awoke to the lapping of water. Oh, hang on. I have another picture. She awoke to the lapping of water. She was wrapped in a blanket, and the giant Turk was putting her in the bottom of a boat. For a moment, she was about to talk, but then, when they began talking, she thought it better to listen. And after she had listened for a moment, it got harder and harder to hear because of the terrible pounding of her heart. "I think you should kill her now," the Turk said. "The less you think, the happier I'll be," the Sicilian answered. There was the sound of ripping cloth. "What is that?" the Spaniard asked. "The same as I attached to her saddle," the Sicilian replied. "Fabric from the uniform of an officer of Gilder." "I still think she must be found dead on the Gilder frontier, or we will not be paid the remainder of our fee. Is that clear enough for you?" "I just feel better when I know what's going on, that's all," the Turk mumbled. "People are always thinking I'm so stupid because I'm big and strong. Sometimes drool a little when I get excited. But that happens to the best of us." Sorry, I might have added that. "The reason people think you're so stupid," the Sicilian said, "is because you are so stupid. It has nothing to do with your drooling," just like my mom told me. There came the sound of a flapping of a sail. "Watch your heads," the Spaniard cautioned, and then the boat was moving. "The people of Florin will not take her death well, I should think. She has become beloved." "There will be war," the Sicilian agreed. "We have been paid to start it. It is a fine line of work to be expert in. If we do this perfectly, there will be a continual demand for our services." "Well, I don't like it all that much," the Spaniard said. "Frankly, I wish you had refused. The offer was too high. I don't like killing a girl. God does it all the time. If it doesn't bother him, don't let it worry you." Through all this, Buttercup had not moved. The Spaniard said, "Let's just tell her we're taking her away for ransom." The Turk agreed. "She's so beautiful, and she'd go all crazy if she knew." "She knows already. She's been awake for every word of this." Buttercup lay under the blanket, not moving. How could he have known that, she wondered. "How can you be sure?" "The Sicilian senses all." Conceited, Buttercup thought. Yes, very conceited. He must be a mind reader, Buttercup thought. "Are you giving it full sail?" "As much as is safe," the Spaniard answered from the tiller. We have an hour on." Just make sure I'm doing the right voice. There. "We have an hour on them, so no risks yet. It'll take her horse perhaps 27 minutes to reach the castle. A few minutes more for them to figure out what happened, and since we left an obvious trail, they should be after us within an hour. We should reach the cliffs in 15 minutes more, and, with any luck at all, the Gilder frontier at dawn. When she dies, her body should be quite warm when the prince reaches her mutilated form. I only wish we could stay for his grief. It should be Homeric." "Why does he let me know his plans?" Buttercup wondered. "You are going back to sleep now, my lady," the Spaniard said, and his fingers suddenly were touching her temple, her shoulder, her neck, and she was unconscious again. Buttercup did not know how long she was out, but they were still in the boat when she blinked, the blanket shielding her. And this time, without daring to think, the Sicilian would have known it somehow. She threw the blanket aside and dove deep into Florin Channel. She stayed under for as long as she dared, and then surfaced, starting to swim across the moonless water with every ounce of strength remaining to her. Behind her in the darkness, there were cries. "Go in! Go in!" "I only dog paddle," from the Turk. "You're better than I am," from the Spaniard. Buttercup continued to leave them behind her. Her arms reached for effort, but ached from effort, but she gave them no rest. Her legs kicked and her heart pounded. I could hear her kicking. Veer left! Buttercup went into her breaststroke, silently swimming away. Where is she? The sharks will get her. Don't worry, cautioned the Spaniard. Oh dear, I wish you hadn't mentioned that, thought Buttercup. Princess, the Sicilian called. Do you know what happens to sharks when they smell blood in the water? They go mad. There's no controlling their wildness. They rip and shred and chew and devour. And I'm in a boat, Princess, and there isn't any blood in the water now, so we're both quite safe. But there's a knife in my hand, my lady, and if you don't come back, I will cut my arms, and I'll cut my legs, and I'll catch the blood in a cup, and I'll fling it as far as I can, and sharks can smell blood in the water for miles, and you won't be beautiful for long. Buttercup hesitated, silently treading water. Around her now, although it was surely her imagination, she seemed to be hearing the swish of giant tails. Come back now! There will be no other warning! Buttercup thought, if I come back, they'll kill me anyway, so what's the difference? The difference is... There he goes doing that again, thought Buttercup. He really is a mind reader. If you come back now, I give you my word as a gentleman and assassin that you will die totally without pain. I assure you, you will get no such promise from the sharks. The fish sounds in the night were closer now. Buttercup began to tremble with fear. She was terribly ashamed of herself, but there it was. She only wished she could see for a minute if there really were sharks, and if he really would cut himself. The Sicilian winced out loud. He just cut his arm, lady. He's catching the blood in a cup now. There must be a half-inch of blood on the bottom. The Sicilian winced again. He cut his leg this time. The cup's getting full. I don't believe them. There are no sharks in the water, and there's no blood in his cup. My arm is back to throw. Call out your location or not. The choice is yours. I'm not making a peep. Farewell. There was the splashing sound of liquid landing on liquid. Then there came a pause. Then the sharks went mad. She does not get eaten by the sharks at this time, my father said. I looked up at him. What? This is where Goldman is intercutting into it again. You looked like you were getting too involved and bothered, so I thought I would let you relax. We stopped on page 107 with Goldman interrupting a shark attack. Tomorrow we get to talk about death.
Can you go back 3 slides?
Yes, it's from like
Read to page 140.
Yes.
So, are you going to be at the officer engage as meeting?
I don't know. That's a good question.